You have tried people, plans, and pressure, yet your heart is still restless. What if the help you are waiting for was never meant to come from man? There is a strength available that does not get tired or limited. When human support fails, divine help begins to speak. That this message will realign where you place your trust. You will discover why lifting your eyes changes everything. What sustains you in hidden battles is not effort, but source. If you've been carrying life alone, come. This will shift your perspective. Listen carefully, because peace comes when you know where your help truly comes from. Stay with this message. It may answer the question your heart has been asking. Life inevitably brings moments where human strength reaches its limit. In such moments, the instinct is to look outward for assistance, hoping people, systems, or opportunities will provide relief. While these supports have their place, they are limited by circumstances, availability, and capacity. Come. True help must come from a source that is not restricted by these boundaries. When help comes from the Lord, it is not dependent on convenience, mood, or timing. It is anchored in faithfulness. Relying solely on human help often creates anxiety because it is unpredictable. People can change, resources can fail, and opportunities can close unexpectedly. This uncertainty keeps the heart restless. But when help is anchored in God, stability enters. The heart rests not because problems vanish, but because confidence is no longer tied to fragile systems. Divine help provides assurance even when visible support is absent. God's help is not always dramatic intervention. Often, it appears as strength to endure, wisdom to choose correctly, or clarity to move in the right direction. These forms of help may seem subtle, but they are powerful. Strength allows perseverance. Wisdom prevents unnecessary mistakes, and direction saves time and energy. The God's help works internally before it manifests externally. Many people misinterpret delay as abandonment. They assume that if help does not come quickly, it will not come at all. However, delay often serves preparation. Capacity must be built to carry what is coming. Without preparation, help can become a burden rather than a blessing. God's timing ensures that when help arrives, it produces stability rather than confusion. Humility plays a critical role in receiving help. Pride resists dependence and insists on self-sufficiency. It creates the illusion that asking for help is weakness. But humility recognizes limits and welcomes support. God's help flows most freely where humility creates space. When self-reliance decreases, divine assistance increases. Trust activates help even before circumstances change. Trust shifts focus from what is lacking to who is faithful. This shift brings peace and opens the heart to guidance. Many breakthroughs begin internally long before external conditions improve. Trust aligns the heart with divine provision, making help accessible. God's help also corrects direction. Sometimes the greatest help is redirection. A closed door can protect from unnecessary loss. A delayed opportunity can prevent regret. God's help is not always comfortable, but it is always purposeful. It works toward long-term good rather than short-term relief. When help comes from the Lord, it produces confidence rather than dependence. Instead of creating reliance on circumstances, it builds inner strength. This strength empowers individuals to face future challenges with greater resilience. The person becomes less reactive and more discerning. Ultimately, saying, "My help comes from the Lord," is not denial of human support. It is recognition of ultimate source. People and systems may assist, but God remains the foundation. When this truth settles in the heart, their fear diminishes and hope increases. Life is no longer lived in panic, but in trust. Help becomes a certainty, not because conditions are perfect, but because the source is reliable and unchanging. True help comes from a source beyond human limitation, because everything within the human system is governed by weakness, fluctuation, and uncertainty. Human ability is restricted by time, strength, knowledge, emotions, and circumstances, which means even the most willing helper can fail when pressure exceeds capacity. People can promise support today and withdraw tomorrow, not always out of bad intentions, but because they themselves are limited. Resources can dry up, influence can diminish, health can fail, and opportunities can close without warning. When help is rooted only in what humans can provide, the heart remains anxious, always calculating what will happen if that support disappears. This anxiety is not a lack of gratitude, but an awareness of fragility. That is why the soul instinctively seeks a higher source, one that is not subject to exhaustion, scarcity, or unpredictability. A source beyond human limitation is not confined by physical strength or mental capacity. It sees the end from the beginning and understands dimensions of life that human perception cannot reach. Such a source does not react to problems, but anticipates them, positioning help before the need becomes visible. While humans often respond after damage has occurred, divine help works preventively, shielding, redirecting, and preparing long before crisis emerges. This kind of help operates beyond logic and probability, entering situations where all human calculations have failed. It does not require favorable conditions to function, because it creates its own conditions. Another limitation of human help is partiality. People help based on emotions, relationships, or personal benefit. Even sincere support can be selective. A higher source, however, there is consistent and impartial, responding not to manipulation or pressure, but to purpose and alignment. This consistency brings rest to the heart, because help is no longer something to be negotiated or earned through performance. It becomes an expression of faithfulness rather than a transaction. This removes the burden of constantly proving worthiness to receive assistance. Help beyond human limitation also addresses the root, not just the symptom. Humans often treat surface problems because they see only what is visible. A deeper source works internally, correcting motives, strengthening character, and reshaping perspective. This inner work is essential because unresolved internal issues will reproduce the same external problems even after temporary relief. When help touches the heart, the mind, and the direction of life, change becomes sustainable rather than temporary. Depending on a higher source also redefines strength. Strength is no longer measured by self-sufficiency, but by alignment with a greater power. This understanding frees individuals from the pressure of carrying life alone. It allows vulnerability without shame and trust without fear. The awareness that help comes from beyond human limitation produces courage, because failure is no longer final and obstacles are no longer absolute. What overwhelms human ability does not overwhelm divine capacity. This kind of help is not limited to moments of crisis. It is present in daily decisions, quiet guidance, and subtle protection. Many dangers are avoided without awareness. Many mistakes are prevented without recognition, and many losses never occur because unseen help intervenes. Human help is often loud and visible, but higher help is frequently silent and strategic. Its impact is measured not only by what happens, but also by what does not happen. When the heart fully accepts that true help comes from beyond human limitation, attachment to unstable sources loosens. Relationships are valued without becoming idols. Resources are appreciated without becoming security. Therein success is pursued without becoming identity. Life gains balance because hope is anchored in something unshakable. This anchoring transforms pressure into peace and uncertainty into confidence, allowing the individual to move forward without fear even when visible support is absent. Looking up for help is a deliberate act of faith, not a reaction of weakness. Many people only lift their eyes when everything has collapsed. But true spiritual understanding teaches that direction determines outcome. When the eyes remain fixed on circumstances, limitations become magnified and fear grows stronger. Problems appear bigger not because they are powerful, but because attention gives them authority. The moment the heart decides to look beyond the visible, a shift begins internally. Looking up is not an escape from responsibility. It is a realignment of perspective. It acknowledges that there is a higher intelligence governing life, one that is not threatened by what threatens human reasoning. The mind is trained by experience to search horizontally for solutions, scanning people, systems, and opportunities. This is natural but incomplete. Horizontal help is competitive, scarce, and conditional. Looking up introduces a vertical dimension where help is not competed for and not rationed. It reminds the soul that provision does not originate from the earth, but flows through it. This awareness changes how pressure is handled. Instead of panic, there is expectation. Instead of desperation, there is patience. The heart learns to wait without anxiety because it trusts the source. Looking up also corrects pride disguised as independence. Many struggle not because help is unavailable, but because self-reliance has become an identity. The need to appear strong, capable, and in control prevents surrender. Looking up humbles the heart without humiliating it. It teaches that dependence on a higher source is not weakness but wisdom. Even the strongest systems require an external power source to function. In the same way, the human strength is meant to be sustained by divine supply. Accepting this truth removes unnecessary strain from the mind and body. When the eyes are lifted, clarity replaces confusion. Many decisions become difficult because they are made from fear rather than understanding. Looking up quiets internal noise and sharpens discernment. Direction becomes clearer, not because every detail is revealed, but because trust stabilizes the heart. A calm heart sees better than an anxious mind. Guidance flows more easily when the soul is not fighting for control. This is why those who trust deeply often move with confidence, even when the path ahead is not fully visible. Looking up also protects from disappointment. When expectations are placed entirely on people or systems, failure becomes devastating. Even well-meaning helpers can fall short, and when they do, bitterness grows. Trusting a higher source allows people to be human without becoming idols. Relationships are freed from unhealthy pressure, and gratitude replaces entitlement. Help from people becomes a blessing rather than a requirement. This emotional balance preserves peace and prevents relational breakdown. Another powerful effect of looking up is endurance. Challenge us to not disappear instantly, but strength to endure them increases. Waiting no longer feels like punishment but preparation. Delays are understood as processes, not denials. This mindset keeps hope alive even when progress seems slow. Those who look up do not rush prematurely or quit easily because their confidence is anchored beyond immediate results. They understand that timing is as important as provision. Looking up also invites transformation. External help may change circumstances, but higher help changes the person. Character is refined, patience is developed, and faith is strengthened. These internal changes are essential because they determine how future blessings are handled. Without inner growth, external solutions can become destructive. Looking up ensures that help arrives with wisdom, not just relief. As this posture becomes a lifestyle, fear loses its grip. The unknown no longer threatens stability, and uncertainty no longer controls emotions. Life is faced with quiet confidence rather than loud anxiety. The heart rests not because everything is perfect, but because it knows where help truly comes from. This assurance sustains peace, strengthens resolve, and keeps the soul steady in every season. Trusting in divine help requires releasing the illusion of control that the mind desperately clings to. Much of human anxiety is rooted in the belief that survival depends entirely on personal effort, planning, and foresight. The mind constantly rehearses worst-case scenarios, believing that anticipation can prevent pain. However, this endless mental activity does not produce safety, it produces exhaustion. When help is expected only from personal ability, the mind never rests because it knows its limits. Trusting a higher source interrupts this cycle by shifting responsibility from fragile human control to divine oversight. Overthinking often feels productive, but it is usually fear wearing the disguise of diligence. The mind convinces itself that constant analysis equals responsibility, when in reality it is a refusal to trust. Trust does not mean abandoning wisdom or action. It means recognizing that outcomes are not sustained by human calculation alone. When the heart accepts this truth, the mind is released from carrying the weight of results. Effort becomes focused rather than frantic. And action flows from peace rather than pressure. Divine help works most effectively when the heart is calm, not frantic. Anxiety clouds perception and distorts judgment, causing people to make premature or emotionally driven decisions. Trust slows the internal noise enough for clarity to emerge. This clarity does not always come as detailed instructions, but as inner assurance. Many times, direction is felt before it is understood. The mind may not fully grasp the path, but the heart recognizes alignment. This inner knowing is one of the ways divine help manifests, guiding decisions without confusion. Another dimension of trusting divine help is accepting timing. Human urgency is often driven by fear of loss, comparison, or failure. The pressure to act quickly can override discernment. Trust allows patience without passivity. It teaches that delay is not absence and silence is not rejection. When help is expected from a higher source, waiting becomes purposeful rather than painful. The soul understands that preparation often happens before manifestation. What seems like delay externally is often alignment internally. Trust also reshapes how failure is perceived. When outcomes do not align with expectations, those who rely solely on personal strength interpret it as defeat. That those who trust divine help see it as redirection. This perspective preserves hope and prevents despair. Failure no longer defines worth or future potential. Instead, it becomes part of a larger process that the mind may not immediately understand. That this understanding stabilizes emotions and keeps faith intact even when results are disappointing. Divine help also operates beyond visible logic. Many solutions do not arrive through obvious channels. Opportunities appear unexpectedly. Strength rises when energy is depleted, and answers emerge without clear explanation. Come, these moments reveal that help is not always dramatic but often subtle. Come, trust trains the heart to recognize these quiet interventions. Gratitude grows not only for breakthroughs, but for preservation, guidance, and unseen protection. Letting go of control does not weaken discipline, it refines it. Actions become intentional rather than compulsive. Calm. The mind stops racing ahead of grace and learns to move at that pace of peace. This balance prevents burnout and emotional fatigue. Life becomes sustainable because it is no longer driven by fear of what might happen, but guided by confidence in who is providing help. Come, as trust deepens, rest becomes natural. The mind no longer feels responsible for managing every outcome. Sleep improves, focus sharpens, and emotional reactions soften. Rest is not avoidance, it is confidence expressed through stillness. This rest becomes a testimony that help is present even when nothing is visibly changing, when trust replaces overthinking. That the soul becomes resilient. Pressure may still exist, but it no longer dominates. The heart remains steady in uncertainty, and hope remains alive in delay. This inner stability is evidence of divine help at work. Calm, carrying the mind beyond its limits and sustaining the heart beyond human strength. Divine help is not limited to dramatic interventions. It often manifests through quiet guidance, inner restraint, and subtle redirection. Many expect help to arrive only when situations collapse, but in reality, some of the greatest assistance comes in moments when the soul is guided away from danger without realizing it. A thought interrupts a wrong decision, a delay blocks a harmful opportunity, or a loss prevents a greater destruction. Come, these moments may feel frustrating at first, but with time they reveal themselves as protection. This form of help requires sensitivity because it does not announce itself loudly. It works beneath awareness, shaping outcomes while preserving peace. One of the challenges in recognizing divine help is impatience. The human mind wants immediate clarity and visible results. When help does not come in expected ways, doubt creeps in. However, divine help often prioritizes long-term preservation over short-term comfort. What feels like silence may actually be careful orchestration. Timing matters because receiving something too early can be as damaging as not receiving it at all. Help that arrives before character is ready can destroy rather than bless. Understanding this transforms frustration into trust and waiting into cooperation. Another expression of divine help is strength in weakness. There are moments when circumstances do not change. Come, yet the ability to endure them increases. Emotional resilience, mental clarity, and inner peace appear where they should not logically exist. This strength is not self-generated. It rises from a source beyond personal capacity. It allows individuals to carry responsibilities without collapse and face pressure without losing identity. There's this internal reinforcement is often overlooked because it does not remove the problem, but it sustains the person within it. Divine help also teaches discernment by revealing what to release. Not every struggle requires resistance. Some require surrender. Knowing the difference is wisdom. Come, there are battles that drain energy because they were never assigned. The help sometimes comes by removing unnecessary burdens rather than adding new strength. The courage to walk away, come, the grace to forgive, or the wisdom to stop striving can be greater help than external provision. Come, these decisions preserve peace and protect purpose. Another aspect of divine help is alignment. The many frustrations arise not from opposition but from misplacement. When effort is invested in the wrong direction, exhaustion increases and results decrease. Divine help redirects focus, aligning actions with purpose. This alignment restores efficiency. Effort begins to yield fruit, not because intensity increased, but because direction was corrected. Alignment also restores joy, because work done within purpose feels lighter, even when demanding. Help from a higher source also reshapes expectations. Instead of demanding immediate solutions, the heart learns to value process. Growth becomes more important than speed. This mindset prevents disappointment and cultivates gratitude. Small victories are recognized, daily provision is appreciated, and progress is measured internally rather than externally. This shift protects from comparison and preserves contentment. Divine help is deeply personal. It meets individuals according to their capacity, calling, and season. What works for one may not work for another. This uniqueness is intentional, ensuring that trust remains relational rather than formulaic. Dependence on rigid methods is replaced by sensitivity and obedience. This keeps the heart engaged rather than mechanical. As awareness of divine help increases, fear decreases. The unknown no longer feels threatening because help is trusted beyond visibility. Life is approached with confidence rather than anxiety. Even uncertainty becomes manageable because assurance is anchored in something constant. This confidence is not arrogance. It is quiet assurance. Recognizing divine help changes how life is lived. Pressure loses dominance. Control loosens its grip and peace becomes sustainable. Challenges remain, but they no longer define emotional stability. The heart rests not because everything is easy, but because help is certain, present, and sufficient in every season. Divine help reshapes how responsibility is understood, shifting it from anxious self-dependence to peaceful partnership. Many people collapse under pressure, not because the task is impossible, but because they believe they are alone in carrying it. Responsibility without divine help becomes a burden. But responsibility shared with God becomes stewardship. The difference is subtle yet powerful. Stewardship recognizes effort as obedience rather than survival. Actions are taken faithfully, but outcomes are trusted. This mindset relieves the heart from the crushing demand to control results while still honoring diligence and discipline. When responsibility is misunderstood, guilt becomes a constant companion. Any delay feels like failure, and any mistake feels fatal. Divine help corrects this distortion by restoring perspective. It reminds the heart that progress is not always visible and growth is not always measurable. Many internal victories occur long before external change appears. Patience with the process becomes possible because worth is no longer tied to immediate outcomes. This patience protects mental health and sustains long-term faithfulness. Another dimension of divine help is provision beyond expectation. Human planning often operates within predictable limits, but divine provision transcends calculation. Resources appear through unexpected channels, opportunities open without prior connection, and solutions emerge without logical sequence. This does not eliminate planning, but it humbles it. Planning becomes flexible rather than rigid. The heart learns to hold plans lightly, allowing redirection without resistance. This flexibility prevents frustration when life unfolds differently than anticipated. Divine help also confronts fear at its root. Fear thrives on uncertainty and imagined outcomes. Their trust dismantles fear by anchoring confidence in a faithful source rather than in circumstances. This confidence does not deny reality, but it refuses to be ruled by it. The heart becomes courageous, calm, not because danger disappears, but because help is assured. This courage empowers action even in unfamiliar territory. Risk becomes obedience rather than recklessness. Another expression of divine help is peace that guards the mind. This peace is not dependent on favorable conditions. It remains steady even when challenges persist. It acts as an internal boundary, preventing anxiety from overwhelming thought patterns. With this peace, the mind becomes clearer, decisions become wiser, and reactions become measured. Emotional stability becomes a testimony of help at work internally, sustaining balance when external stability is absent. Divine help also purifies motivation. Many pursuits are driven by fear, comparison, or the need for validation. Trust exposes these hidden drivers and replaces them with purpose. Actions become aligned with calling rather than pressure. This alignment restores joy in service and prevents burnout. When motivation is pure, effort becomes fulfilling rather than draining. The heart works from love rather than desperation. Help from God also teaches endurance with grace. Some seasons require waiting, persistence, and silent faithfulness. Divine help does not always shorten these seasons, but it strengthens the heart within them. Endurance becomes possible without bitterness. Waiting becomes active trust rather than passive frustration. This endurance refines character, prepares the heart for what is coming next. Another important effect of divine help is identity stability. When life is unpredictable, identity anchored in circumstances becomes unstable. Success inflates pride, and failure breeds shame. Divine help anchors identity in relationship rather than performance. This anchoring protects emotional health and preserves confidence regardless of outcomes. The heart remains steady because worth is not negotiable. As responsibility is carried in partnership with God, life becomes balanced. Effort is given, but rest is preserved. Action continues, but anxiety decreases. Pressure loses its power to dominate. The soul learns to move forward without panic, trust without hesitation, calm and rest without guilt. This balance is evidence of divine help actively sustaining the mind, strengthening the heart, and guiding the journey with quiet faithfulness. Divine help ultimately leads the heart into a lifestyle of rest, not inactivity, but deep internal assurance. This rest is the result of sustained trust, where the soul no longer reacts impulsively to every challenge. It is a settled confidence that life is being guided, not left to chance. Rest begins internally before it manifests externally. Even in demanding seasons, the heart remains calm because it is anchored in the certainty of help that does not fail. This rest reshapes how time is perceived. Urgency no longer dominates decisions. The pressure to rush, compare, or prove worth fades. Instead, there is sensitivity to timing and readiness. Waiting becomes purposeful rather than painful. The heart understands that what is meant to last must be built with patience. Divine help teaches that speed without stability leads to collapse. Rest ensures sustainability. They are preserving strength for long-term purpose. Another effect of divine help is freedom from over-identification with outcomes. Success no longer defines identity, and failure no longer destroys it. This freedom brings emotional stability. When outcomes are released into God's care, effort becomes sincere and joyful. The fear of disappointment loses its grip because trust absorbs uncertainty. That this emotional balance allows consistent obedience regardless of results. Divine help also cultivates gratitude as a daily posture. Awareness grows not only for visible blessings, but for unseen protection, redirection, and restraint. Gratitude shifts focus from what is lacking to what is present. This shift multiplies peace and reduces anxiety. The heart learns to recognize that provision is not only material, but emotional, mental, and spiritual. Every day becomes evidence of sustaining help. Another dimension of divine help is wisdom for boundaries. Their rest requires knowing when to stop, when to say no, and when to withdraw. Divine help grants discernment to protect energy and focus. Without boundaries, even good intentions lead to burnout. With wisdom, effort is invested where it matters most. This discernment preserves purpose and prevents unnecessary exhaustion. Divine help also deepens intimacy with God. Trust transforms relationship from transactional to relational. Prayer becomes conversation rather than demand. Silence becomes comfortable rather than threatening. The heart learns to remain connected even when answers are not immediate. This intimacy sustains faith beyond circumstances and strengthens confidence in unseen realities. As trust matures, fear loses authority. Fear may attempt to return, but it no longer controls decisions. The heart responds with assurance rather than panic. Courage becomes a natural expression of trust. This courage empowers obedience even when the path is uncertain. Confidence grows not from clarity of circumstances, but from certainty of help. Divine help also produces consistency. Emotional highs and lows stabilize. Faith is no longer dependent on feeling inspired. Obedience continues even in ordinary moments. This consistency builds spiritual strength and resilience. Life becomes less reactive and more intentional. Resting in divine help does not remove responsibility, it refines it. War continues, but without strains. Challenges are faced, but without fear. Effort is given, but without anxiety. This balance reflects mature trust. It is the fruit of a heart that has learned where help truly comes from. One life is lived from this place of rest. Peace becomes a constant companion. Pressure loses its power. Uncertainty loses its threat, and the future loses its fear. The heart remains steady because it is no longer carrying life alone. This rest is the final expression of divine help. A quiet strength that sustains the soul in every season. True help does not come from human strength, endless thinking, or desperate striving, but from trusting a source higher than all limitations. When the heart learns to look beyond circumstances and rely on God, fear loses its grip, pressure is released, and peace is restored. Divine help does not always remove challenges, but it provides clarity, strength, direction, and rest within them. As trust deepens, life shifts from anxious control to confident surrender, from exhaustion to stability, and from confusion to alignment. Knowing that help comes from the Lord anchors the soul, steadies the mind, and sustains the heart through every season, making peace not a temporary feeling, but a lasting reality.